Welcome to episode 3 of Distorted Dimensions, a Terror 29 podcast. I'm your host with the Halloween toast as we raise our glasses to the ghosts that haunt us the most. I'm Zach, the maniac, sitting next to the one and only. I am super pumped for today's episode. We have Chad from Twisted Nightmare. Chad, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you very much, Zach. I love being here.
So pumped. You had reached out after listening to the first podcast when we kind of gave a shout out. And so now I'm pumped.
Yeah, I heard a name drop, so I thought I should probably stop by.
Yeah,
I got called out, right?
So I'm pumped. We're going to talk about Disney. We're both Disney nerds.
Yes, hopefully not too much since we're so early. You know, I am on that borderline Disney adult, so I promise we're not going to get into that territory. But
Sure.
boy, I really could, especially as someone with a large leg tattoo of Disney on myself right now. So yeah, listeners, it's okay. We'll stay on the Halloween side of things.
Right, but we can get a little spooky with some Disney.
Absolutely,
as
yeah.
well.
They certainly do.
And we can certainly branch out in this podcast, you know.
Absolutely.
It doesn't always have to be haunted house or horror related. Right. But we've actually known each other for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm actually really pumped for this episode because versus just chatting at lunch at like Backyard Barbecue, shout out to them. But it's really a chance I can kind of dive into your brain a little bit and pick some knowledge out. So we're going to get started. And the first question I have is really just your journey into the world of haunted houses and horror. What sparked your interest? Yeah. Where did all of this start?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because as a kid, I did not like scary movies at all. So horror and all of that has only been in like the last, 10, 15 years at best. Back when I was a kid, I'll tell one quick story. My grandma, Arlene Cosberg, who you worked with once, she worked in the movie industry here in Sioux Falls for over 50 years. And so as a kid, I got into movies for free. And so I didn't pay for a film until, I was like 18 or 19 years old, which is just wild to think about.
So now you're making up for it when you rent out an entire theater. You're like, I didn't pay my entire life.
I didn't pay my dues. So I on my birthday every year, I've been renting out a theater to play a classic film. And it's super fun. I'm real excited for this year. It's a complete mystery, so no hints.
Okay.
But I'm really excited for it. Anyway, so I have this memory of going to Beetlejuice when it first opened with my grandmother.
Oh, wow.
And Beetlejuice came out in late 88, 89, something like that. And I want to say I was 8 or 9 years old at the time when it came out. And I don't know what prompted her to bring us to this film, because certainly there's nothing about the trailer or anything like that would make it seem like a kid's movie, because I think it's rated PG-13 if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But I remember the moment we walked out of it, and it scared the heck out of me. And it was when the Maitlands were trying to scare the Dietzes out of the house by stretching their faces out.
Sure.
And like he put eyeballs on his fingers and things like that.
Yep.
And we had to leave.
So you didn't even make it through.
Didn't even make it through. I was like, in my mid-20s, I think, maybe in late 20s, before I finally saw Beetlejuice.
Because you were just scarred for life.
I was just scarred almost for life. And now it's like one of my favorite films. I really loved the sequel. And then, in the last 10, 15 years, kind of this horror thing started creeping in. And now here I am all of a sudden doing a haunted house and all these other things. So that started probably with like Tremors, Critters, kind of going back and watching a lot of the films from the 80s, kind of the creature feature films. I fell in love with them, especially what I'll call horror comedy. Friday the 13th doesn't really fall into that, but when you have Freddy Krueger doing dad jokes through most of it, like that really appealed to me. And then you get things like the Addams Family and the Munsters, and
love the Munsters.
Love the Munsters. They're so cool. And so that was kind of the gateway drug into, well, let's see what else is out there. And now exploring horror. And then in 2017, I realized there was a haunted house here in town, and I wanted to go to it. And I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. And it was Twisted Nightmare. And so I went to it, really loved it. They mixed humor and the horror at the same time, so it really appealed to me. And I reached out to them and said, hey, do you guys need any more volunteers? What can I do to help? And next thing you know, I'm helping out, and now I'm helping run the darn thing. And so Twisted Nightmare started off from Tommy Schmitz, who was a police officer. He's now retired. he wanted a way to like do a fundraiser for the Fraternal Order of Police. And he was a big horror nerd, loved haunted houses, loved scaring people. And so I may get this wrong, but I think he was doing it out of his garage originally, and then wanted to go a little bit bigger, do more commercial stuff, and knew some people who had commercial spaces that were available, kind of a Spirit Halloween kind of idea where if the space is empty for October, I'll take it over.
Sure.
And we'll try and do it. So he did that for a few years. And then by the time I came on, we started kind of saying, hey, could we get a more permanent location? And so now we're kind of semi-permanent. Like we have a building we just store everything in out at the FOP building, but the actual FOP building itself, like it's a place, it's a wedding venue, right? It's a place to do weddings and retirement parties and things like that. And so we still don't have a permanent place, but we have a spot to store all of our stuff at least.
Right.
And so that's how we got to where we are. And that was kind of my journey into all of this, and all of a sudden here we are. And now
So is Tommy and David at the same time together?
Sort of. So Tommy started by himself. I forget if David joined him the very first year or the second, and we'll have to get David on here. I'm going to try
for
and
sure. We'll do a part two.
To get him on and kind of his side of the story on this. But David and his brother Jeff, the Kading brothers, did a large-scale haunted house out of their garage, and the stories that they tell are incredible. So I'll leave those stories to them to tell. But I'll just say they were the problem neighbors on Halloween. The neighborhood would be filled with cars you couldn't get through. They quote charged a canned food item to get into their garage haunted house.
Okay.
And a lot of what they did kind of came into Tommy's, and they kind of merged forces at some point. And the Twisted Nightmare officially started in 2014, so we're now 10 going into our 11th year. And when they combined forces, that's kind of when it started to really take off.
Sure.
If anybody remembers out there, the vault location, that's...
Yeah, so where was it? I want to definitely talk about the vault, because that's where I first saw Twisted. Right. But where was the very first?
I don't know where it was very first. I'd have to check with Tommy on that one, because I do not remember. But I know one of the locations was a warehouse just south of the arena that was like an electric golf or go-kart racing track. It was like that for like a year, and then they closed.
Okay.
And then Twisted was able to take that over, and they did it in there.
Is that kind of by the VFW?
Yeah, kind of in that general neighborhood.
Okay, so I definitely saw them there too then.
Yep.
Over by like Burnside Bingo, that
Yep.
whole
that
complex.
little area. Yep. And then they went from there to the old vault location.
Okay.
And we were there for 2 years because for whatever reason the real estate couldn't get sold, and he knew the realtor for it, and so they were just kind of donated it for the month. So we could build in there. And that was an interesting location because it had 2 stages inside there. And so trying to build kind of around the steps and how that worked.
Yeah, it's been so long, I don't remember. Did we go on the stage for any of the
You
sets?
did, yeah.
Wow.
Twice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you did it twice, and you probably never even realized you did.
Oh, that's so cool.
And that's, part of the fun of taking a space and kind of making people dizzy in it, right?
And confused and disoriented. Yeah.
And then after the vault, that real estate got sold, and so in 2017 we didn't have Twisted Nightmare at all. We had no place to do it.
Oh wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so it did not occur. So
the year you reached out to help and volunteer, then they don't do it.
They don't do it the next year. So I did it once.
Got it.
And then we died for that year, and then the next year started back up.
Sure.
And that was
at
the year.
Your forever home?
That technically, the forever home until 2020.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's right, because then you guys went to Sioux Falls.
That's right, because the FOP was super nervous. 2020, it was super weird.
Yep.
We don't need to get into all
Nobody knew what to do.
Nobody knew what to do. We didn't know what to do. You didn't know what to do.
Yep.
But we were like, okay, well, let's do something. The FOP didn't really want to hold any events at their venue, so we reached out to some of our contacts, and someone down at 8th and Railroad was like, hey, we got this space that's open for the next 2 months. We have nothing to do with it. You can come take it over. And they were already going to renovate it, so they kind of gave us permission to do whatever we wanted to. We could paint it. We could drill into the floors. We could do anything.
Nice, okay.
Because they were going to just completely gut it and redo the entire space anyway for the new tenant.
Sure.
And so we were very fortunate. Luckily, we didn't have to do a lot of painting in that because we don't. But we moved in there, and we just did 4 days at the end of October.
Super short run. Which had to be brutal. All that time and energy to put into that, and then you're only open the 4 days.
The 4 days. And funny enough, those 4 days, we did 50% of what we normally do for an entire month.
Wow.
So we crammed a lot into those days, especially because we weren't combining groups. We were trying to be as safe as we could. So we didn't combine groups. So if you came with 2 people, just the 2 people went through.
Sure.
Whereas normally, like if you came with a group of 2, we're going to try and get you with other groups of 2, 4, try and get you up to about 6 or so.
Right.
So yeah,
That's
was
kind of the game.
It is, right? Like trying to get as many people through while still giving a good experience. And it's difficult to do that, especially you get a group, hey, we got 14 kids here. And we're like, now I got to do math to figure out how to get you through this thing.
Yeah, right. We're not going to do all 14 at once.
Right. And
what is your cap? Do you have?
We say 6, but we've put groups as big as 9 through.
Okay, I was going to say, yeah, we'll do 9 or 10 in a push, about 7 or 8.
Yeah. Because, and for us, like, our limitation is some of the props that we have and the rooms that we have. They're just not big enough to hold that many people.
Yep, same here for sure.
So we have our elevator, which has evolved through the years, but generally it's been the same size, and it holds about 6 people comfortably.
Sure.
So that group of 9, you're just
pretty
in there
tight.
like sardines. Yeah.
What about that seance room?
The seance room, I think the group of 9 might have broke it that night.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because it was never made to hold that much
many,
weight and that many people. So for those who have not been through Twisted, we'll talk about some behind-the-scenes stuff.
Sure, cool.
The seance room spins, and the seance room doesn't exist anymore, actually. It's been torn down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's been rebuilt into something else. But at the year...
It still spins? And
it still spins, yep.
Okay.
It's kind of going through a bit of an evolution at the moment.
Sure. It's an identity crisis.
It's got an identity crisis right now, for sure.
Got it.
But that's okay.
Right.
But the
it's
seance...
evolution of the
Exactly,
haunt.
exactly. But the seance room was super fun because it did spin. It spun in both directions, and we tried to build it in a way that you didn't know it was a room that was going to spin. You just walked in, and it was just this hexagonal room, and we made you stand on the edges, and we're just like, hold on, and then it just goes.
Yeah.
and
it went pretty fast, too.
Yes, and it could go faster. We governed it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, safety issues prevent us from doing a lot of the weird stuff that come into our brains.
Yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah, especially with like the elevator, because the elevator could do a lot more interesting things.
Right.
So we have an elevator that will go up. Well, they just changed it this past year. I don't know what its new capacity is, but previously it could go up about a foot. It had about 12 inches of travel on the 4 points.
Yeah.
And so you could shake it pretty good based on how you programmed it. And shout out to Garrett, who's our kind of wizard around the elevator and basically all of our mechanical
kind of
things.
Technical,
Yeah, but the elevator's been his baby, I think, pretty much almost since its inception. And he's rebuilt it 3, 4, 5 times over. And this past year, he rebuilt it one more time. And it's bigger. It travels further. Has more safety mechanisms in it now.
Okay.
The doors are now automated. Before, the doors were semi-kind of automated, but semi-kind of not.
Okay.
They were using counterweights and all kinds of interesting mechanisms. So now he's just got an air cylinder that just opens and closes them.
Oh, nice.
And we've got all these sensors so that if someone's in front of them, it won't close on them and things like that.
Sure.
But that elevator can get really violent really quick if you let it.
Yeah. Well, I love your guys' elevator from the different haunts that I've been to. Some of them just are kind of mediocre. They don't have a lot of movement.
Right.
It really breaks the illusion of kind of being in an elevator that's supposed to be falling or going wherever. Where yours, it's like, okay, there's some movement on this.
Yeah. And I think it's now moving about 1.5 feet or something like that.
That's so cool.
Like, it's really crazy. And when you start moving a small room like that inside, there's all kinds of interesting considerations, like the platform that we built to go up to it. You have to move that somehow because the elevator will just scrape against it.
Sure. Okay.
And so now there's a mechanism that drops the floors around it and moves the walls out of the way.
Wow.
It's one of the most complex things you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
I'll have to show you a picture
That's
later
legit,
of like the control box that Garrett made out of it. He's done such an amazing job with it.
That's so cool.
And it's such, it's one thing to go through it, but it's a whole nother thing to like have an appreciation on the technical level of how it's built and how it functions.
Yeah, I think a behind-the-scenes tour is probably just as cool or valuable.
Absolutely.
And you guys actually tried that last year.
We've done that a couple years. So we do a, quote, trick-or-treat day with all the lights on, and we invite kids in. But we don't we leave all the lights on, and we don't have actors in it, but all of our stuff is still active, and so we'll let people take a ride on the elevator if they want. Some kids are very good about that, some are not.
Right.
But during that, we try and show folks behind the scenes, and it's kind of the one chance that if you want to come see how everything works, we love showing it off because it's as you say, it's so much work
Yeah.
to put into it. It's
Right.
really nice to be able to go, look at how cool this is.
Yeah, and how long are they on the elevator? Like 30 seconds, maybe a minute?
I think it's about a minute and a half right now.
Okay.
We've had it programmed longer in the past, but if you're trying to get people through a haunted house,
And also though the point I was getting at is all the time and energy that you spent into it, and
Yep.
then they're on it for a minute and a half, and
right,
on to the
and,
next
and they're
thing.
on the next thing. Yeah, and we kind of wanted to keep it like this is our marquee thing, right? This is the cool aspect. So we want you to enjoy it for at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the new aspect this year, which I don't think you've been on since,
it's been a couple years since I've even
been. Yeah. Well, now we exit you into a hallway that drops.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And so.
Oh, I know Garrett was working on that a couple years ago.
Yeah.
When he was trying to do the spiral tunnel, and then that bridge turned into that, right?
Turned into that.
Yeah.
Yep. So now he's been able to get that successfully done.
Okay.
And so that's another interesting little aspect to it.
Yeah,
and then,
no doubt.
Because we have to, no matter where you are, to get into the elevator, you have to walk up at least like a foot and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, we have to get you down that other foot and a half. Well, now we just drop you that foot and a half
That's
and then
so
make you
funny.
exit.
Sure.
Where there's a
okay.
ramp that goes up the first time. It kind of, for me and others, like it kind of breaks the illusion. You're going up to something.
Yeah.
So how do you make it so that people don't notice they're going up to something?
Right.
And know that, oh, we're about to get on something that's going to move, right? You want to try and keep that illusion. And so with the current elevator, we now have drop pictures in there with scare actors that will come out.
Oh, wow.
To kind of
okay.
distract you from the fact that you're going up this hallway.
Yeah.
And so it's a one little way of kind of trying to
keep the illusion.
Sneak it, right? Yeah.
Sure.
And keep that illusion alive.
That's so cool. Do you have an Easter egg anywhere that says "Take the stairs"?
No, we don't, but we should.
You should.
There's a ton of Easter eggs in the little lobby area, though, because we have a guest book.
Okay.
And so the guest book is filled with horror movie names and things like that.
Okay.
The only other Easter egg used to be on, and of course it's an Easter egg I did because it's Disney related, on the seance room above the door. Couldn't see it because it was completely blacked out, but I had the entire Haunted Mansion logo built into it. And
oh, wow.
And it just, I think it said "Foolish Mortal" underneath it or something like that. And of course, it's completely black. You can't see it. Even with the lights on, you can barely see it there.
Sure.
But I know it's there.
Yeah,
so
right. Yep. Yeah. That's so cool. And I love that. At the intro that I had, I wanted to do "I'm your host, your ghost host,"
Right.
but I did that in the teaser episode already, so I didn't want to reuse it. I
Right.
wanted to come up with something unique and different
Yep,
for you.
exactly.
But I love that we're both wearing the Haunted Mansion.
We do, yeah. I
sweatshirts.
picked Haunted Mansion for the day, and I do have Twisted Nightmare on underneath this. But
Okay, so you're rocking both.
I'm rocking both. Yeah,
I just have a black shirt, so
That's fair.
I'm
well, and I
slacking.
got your viewers will never see this, but I got my Haunted Mansion shoes on.
Wow! Did you have those custom or were those released?
A gal from Etsy made these like 8 years ago for me.
Wow!
And somehow they've held up this long. They're just Converse that someone hand painted.
That's so.
So I've got the
cool.
wallpaper on one side, and I got like Hatbox Ghost on one. I got the Hitchhiking Ghost on the other side. And she hand painted all of it, and it was like she charged me like $150 or something.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
No, it wasn't.
That's
so
the price of pair, For,
yeah, that's like a pair of shoes already. So, and I've worn them quite religiously in many different places, and somehow they've held up.
Have you worn them to Disney?
I have, yeah.
Good.
So that we can talk about Disney a little bit if you like. So
yeah, well, I do have some Disney questions too.
Awesome. So yeah, the first time I ever got to go to Disney wasn't until I was 38 years old.
So how did you fall in love with Disney in the first place?
That comes back to my mom and dad. Like we just watched Disney movies when I was a kid, and we would get those free previews of the Disney Channel, and we'd tape videos off of that, and of course getting to go to the movies for free because of grandma.
Right.
We went to all of them, and so I just fell in love with that. And I distinctly remember, and this kind of ties in with my love of Halloween as well, and kind of the mechanics of it, is watching. I think it was called World of Color or something like that Walt hosted, talking about how audio animatronics worked, kind of the technical aspects of it. And my mom got to go to Disneyland before she met my dad, like in the early 70s.
Okay.
And so she's got pictures, and she would tell me stories about the Haunted Mansion and how like it would look like a ghost was sitting next to you, and the illusions that she saw. And so just from a kid, I'm like, this sounds like the coolest place ever. I want to go there. But it wasn't really, but we didn't have a lot of money as a kid, we couldn't afford to go. And so as an adult, it was finally around the age of 35, I'm like, I should start saving up and just go.
Yeah.
And then finally my wife and I were like, let's just plan this. Let's do it. And now I now have a Disney problem, and I've been back every year since. Even
So was your first one land or world?
World. So I went to
Have you been to
in
land?
Florida. Yeah, I've been to both. I've been lucky
Okay.
enough to get to both now. Thanks to adult money and adult jobs, and
Right.
not having kids, like that helps a lot.
Sometimes we just work a day job to pay for all these
This fun stuff, right?
Yeah, literally.
So so I got to go down there, and day one, like I quote rope dropped the Haunted Mansion.
Okay.
And it was the first thing I went and did.
Wow.
And I was wearing these shoes, and it was everything I hoped it would be. And I got off, I circled around, went right back on.
That's so
And then I
cool.
had, this was back when they still had their fast pass system. Now it's lightning lane, and there's all kinds of weird stuff with that. But I had a fast pass again, so I went around, went a third time.
Nice.
And I think I went like 11 times in like 2 days.
Oh, wow.
Just on the Haunted Mansion.
And I asked you before we started recording, so I know the answer, but your favorite Disney ride?
It is the Haunted
the
Mansion.
Haunted
yeah,
Mansion.
yeah.
What would be your second?
Right now, I think it's Tron. I'm not a roller coaster person, and I'm deathly afraid of them. But Tron looked too cool not to at least go try.
Yeah.
And so I kind of overcame my fears. And this last September, I've been very fortunate. My job paid for me to go to a conference, and that conference happened to be in Florida.
It just happened to be.
And so my wife and I just took a couple extra vacation days and popped over to the parks, and I conquered my fear and went on Tron as my first
And you
roller
loved
coaster.
it?
I loved it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But even so, I recorded my heart rate when we were doing it.
Okay.
I started a workout like walking to the queue, and immediately like it was up around 120.
Sure.
And then like during the ride, it was 130, 140, and then finally drops. Like you could see like the different points
That's crazy.
of my quote
That's so
workout. Because then the next day we went on Guardians of the Galaxy, which is another roller coaster they have down there, and it's indoors, and it launches backwards and it turns. And I did the same thing, and the exact same thing happened.
So I definitely want to talk about Tron for a second, but then
Yeah.
have you been on Space Mountain?
No.
Okay, so that's
that one's like off the table because it doesn't have the cool factor for me because it's in the dark,
Yep.
right? I just like Tron because it just looks so cool, and
Yeah.
I really think the reason I like it is because of the motorcycle position you're in, and I think that just scares me less. That's a weird thing.
Okay, like you're more...
like I feel more secure, like
Yeah.
I'm more in control of it. Clearly you're not, but like as opposed to like
Well, you're just as safe on either one.
either
Yeah.
one is the same, right?
Yeah.
But psychologically, like whatever my brain does not want to
Funny.
change
So did
that.
you have to wait forever to get into Tron?
No, I spent the $20 for the individual lightning lane just to go on it.
So did you have like... Because you didn't stay at a resort for
We
Disney.
did, yeah.
Oh, you did. So you
Oh,
had
yeah.
the 7 day.
I had the 7-day window. Yeah,
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, that's
'Cause
real
Tron,
convenient.
Because Tron is so difficult to get into.
it is. Yeah, unless you're paying.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I got even the second time we didn't even get a chance to go on Tron because
Mhm.
it was sold out the second. I got on right at 7 a.m. or whatever time it is to
Right.
book the lightning lane and sold out. And then at 6:30 it popped back up and I
Yep.
saw it and I tried to click on it and then the phone froze and I think
Oh,
everybody
jeez.
beat me to it. But my first time at Disney, I did get to do Tron.
Yep.
And this is a spoiler alert. My favorite part of Tron is in the queue line when you're in that room
Oh, yes.
and you don't know or realize that is a video screen,
And what's about to happen?
and
yeah.
then zoop, and then you can, it's amazing. That was a magic moment for sure for me.
Yeah.
That was probably, the ride was epic, and I love roller coasters, and
Yep.
that was super cool. I always joke that Tron is what like Space Mountain wishes it could be,
Right.
Because it's
Yes.
so epic.
Yep.
But I just, that room before you even get on the ride, that just still blows my mind. That
Yeah.
was so cool,
Well,
unexpected.
And I love the music that's in there. Like Tron the movie, boy, for me, a very mediocre film.
Yeah,
both of them, they just don't excite me. But there's something about the way they built that area, the ride itself, the music that plays, especially at night.
Yeah,
Did you get to
night
do
is
it
the
at night
way.
at all?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, I had to ride during the day.
Oh, okay.
Well, I shouldn't say had to, but I
That's
did.
the time.
It was the time that I was able to get. But at night, it's just this weird vibe that is so amazing in that area. And then you go in, and everything is just this neon blue, electronic. Like the way they
Yeah.
designed it is just amazing.
It's so cool. Do they have it in Disneyland? Or is it
No,
just,
not yet. Disneyland. I don't think they're going to get it either. I don't think they have the space for it.
it's a much smaller park.
It's a
I've
much
never
smaller
been
park.
to that one, but
So I was lucky enough. I went on an Adventures by Disney trip. So
Okay.
there you get to go behind the scenes in a lot of these things, and that was probably one of the coolest things I ever got to do, because you get into the park before it even opens, and you get to take a bunch of pictures when nobody's in there.
Wow.
And it's just you and like, I want to say a group of about 30 folks that were we were bussed around for that. But we got to go to like Muppet Studios, the Charlie Chaplin studios that they're now sadly selling. But that was really cool to be able to see that. We got to hang out in Brian Henson's office and see all the awards his dad had won, and like all the artifacts that he keeps in there.
Okay.
That little trip, highly recommend the Adventures by Disney California trip if you can ever do it. It's a little expensive, as you can imagine.
Do you get to go above the firehouse?
You do, yeah. You get to go in Walt's apartment. So I've got a picture of myself in Walt's apartment.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And then we got to go behind the scenes on a lot of different rides. You get to watch Soarin' from behind the screen, which you don't realize it's not really a screen. It's painted metal, and it's little tiny dots in it too, so that because the speakers are behind it, of course, and that's how they project the sound through it.
No kidding.
And it's just these little simple things that you don't think about that are just so amazing. We got to go behind the scenes at Indiana Jones. This was the coolest part for me because we found out, that ride was built back in the 80s or 90s, I forget, maybe it must have been 90s, and they're still running on 386 processors, for anyone that knows what that means.
Okay.
And the guy commented, "Yeah, we still buy a lot of parts off of eBay when we can find them."
Holy cow!
Because it's a ride system that works, so why change what works?
Fair.
And they're still running on, or at least this was back in 2019 when I did this, and I assume it's probably still running on these little 386 PCs, and each car has its own little mini PC on it that kind of is its brain, running the program to get through the ride, and each car independently talks to each other to know where the other one is, so that they never get into accidents. They know where they're going. They all know where they're at any particular time. Sure. It's just super fascinating and you get to do all that on this trip.
That's so cool. So do you get to go to all of the rides? And
not all of them, no, but you get to, they have select ones. They let you go behind the scenes and see.
So did you get to do Haunted Mansion?
Sadly not.
Yeah, I figured.
was so
Same
mad.
with like Pirates, they probably didn't do.
No, didn't get to go behind the scenes at Pirates either.
Okay.
Which kind of stunk. But this was also in October, so the Haunted Mansion was the overlay with Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, I've always wanted to see that version.
And every day they gave us 5 free fast passes to use wherever we wanted.
Wow.
I used all of them on Haunted Mansion. So one night I took all 5 and I just circled it 5 times in a row. And it's just so epic.
Yeah, supposedly it's a little bit shorter in California than in Orlando.
It doesn't feel that way, but it might be. Yeah.
Okay. Because instead of the hallway that, how do I explain it? In California, you like walk through it, but in Orlando, you're already on the buggy.
Yeah.
Like that intro hallway.
That little intro hallway. Yeah, the entrance is definitely significantly different.
Well, and then they just remodeled, too, so I don't even know what California is. With the queue line change
most of the queue changed, yeah. It's very different from Florida. But, of course, there's 2 different vibes. One's supposed to be, kind of Louisiana, plantation house, and the other one is, I don't know what. Whatever they called it. It was like New England style. It has a particular name that I'm forgetting at the moment.
Sure.
I should have it memorized with how much Haunted Mansion stuff is currently adorning me.
There's so much to geek out about Disney. We can't memorize it all.
No, we can't.
But I do want to ask, one of my questions on my list was being a Disney nerd and loving the parks, and how does that kind of inspired or translated into what you've created and done at the Haunted House?
Yeah, and it kind of ties back to what I was talking before, seeing that behind the scenes stuff and how audio animatronics work, and like that's a huge inspiration. When you look at like the Haunted Mansion, how simple the effects are. Because really when you're building a haunted house, all you're building is a walk-through magic show.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And you're just trying to create an illusion in each room to, spark some kind of joy, reaction, scare, whatever it is. And so I love the simplicity of things and how a simple effect can have a really big impact on people as they come through. So you think about like Pepper's ghost. It's just a sheet of glass and some lights. That's it.
Right.
And so stuff like that, and just the simple little things that you can set up with lighting, false walls, mirrors, it's like just that aspect of it carries over, and it's directly inspired by the Haunted Mansion because of how simple every effect in there is. There's really nothing high tech in the Haunted Mansion at all anymore.
Right.
It's all from the 1930s, right, and 1940s, because the mansion I think was built in 50 or no, 60, 64 or something like that, 65.
That was the conversation with Crumb that I had. We'll have to get him on the podcast too when I have more microphones.
Right.
But it's like, how do you change the rides to make them more relevant or update them, but then you don't want to lose out on the classics and the nostalgia. So I don't I don't know what I wouldn't really want Haunted Mansion to change, probably.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I want it to change because I want it to, I always want new creative ideas, but at the same time, you don't want to lose something that's really good and cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that problem it kind of persists throughout Disney of they want to change something and the quote Disney adults and other people who really love it get real crabby about it.
Right.
And it's like, look, guys, you got to change at some point. This thing, a lot of this stuff's been around since
I'm
the
not
50s.
so sure that Tiona's Bayou was the best choice though.
Oh, see, I love that one.
You've been on it?
I've not been on it because that drop scares the hell out of me.
Oh, funny.
But I've watched plenty of video ride-throughs because that's my way of getting around hating roller coasters and other things that have huge drops on them. I'll just watch the ride-through a bunch of times.
Funny.
And I think it looks really fun. But I get why people don't like it. Like, I get it, but...
Well, it just seems like that one when there's like the one corn stalk flapping back and forth, and it's like you didn't like that's the one animatronic in that scene. It just seemed like and then when we were there, well, the first year it was closed because of the construction, and then the second, this past January, it was closed the whole day. There's so much technical difficulties with this new ride. It's closed more than it's open, I feel. And I'm probably exaggerating a little bit.
Right, but still, when you start putting more technology in and things that aren't as reliable and things that aren't as time tested or simple, you end up with a lot of breakdowns. Whereas like Haunted Mansion, the only thing that's really complicated is the ride system itself. Everything else is just illusions that are just lights and mirrors, right?
Yeah, I don't know how often the Haunted Mansion would go down.
Hopefully not too often.
Yeah, I would love to be on it though when it does.
I would love that. I would love to get evacuated with all the lights on.
Yeah, literally, that's every Disney nerd's dream.
Right. Yes, they want to get evacuated off of any ride with the lights on.
Yeah, and Disney and the Haunted Mansion would be a cool one.
Yeah, and I've watched plenty of videos of people that have been in the past, and it's always cool to see kind of the illusion broken down and see what it looks like.
Well, what are your favorite Disney movies? Well, we'll talk a little bit about Disney, and then we'll circle back to the haunt.
Sure.
But yeah, I've got a couple Disney. What are some of your favorite Disney movies?
Oh gosh, well, as a kid who grew up in the 80s and 90s, it's pretty much the Renaissance animations. So your Aladdins of the world, Lion King, Little Mermaid. I love that era because the artistry that goes into all of that. Like I love hand-drawn animation, and I also love stop motion animation. As a kid, I was obsessed with like Gumby and the Rankin Bass stop motion stuff.
Nobody's gonna remember Gumby.
No, right? But like I was obsessed with it as a kid, and so I love The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yep.
and that's kind of translated. Now Wallace and Gromit isn't a Disney thing, but I love Wallace and Gromit. I love a lot of the stop motion animation stuff that comes out. But yeah, Disney films, gosh. Yeah, pick any of them from that era, and it's probably one of my favorites.
Okay.
My answer might change every day.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I also love a lot of the older ones from like the 60s, like The Love Bug, and there's another one that's kind of obscure called Blackbeard's Ghost that I really enjoy.
Okay.
And because we watched them on VHS as kids, right?
Yep.
And just watched them over and over and over, wore them out. And
when I suppose now it's tricky to ask what's your favorite Disney movie with them owning Star Wars, owning Marvel, owning Pixar. Because I could go on and on about Pixar and have a bunch of favorite movies, but it's like
everything.
But then also like it'd be hard to. We'd almost want to pick one movie from each sector to be fair.
Right. Yeah. So when someone asks what my favorite Disney movie is, I try and pick ones that aren't something of a property they bought.
Okay, fair. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Something that they made originally, but gosh, do I love Pixar movies? They're pretty awesome.
So what would be your favorite Pixar then?
Probably Toy Story, the original one.
Yeah, I would say that or Monsters Inc. for me.
I really love Up, but I find it so sad I can't watch it.
I know that scene, the opening scene.
The opening scene and the ending scene are just two things that just rip my heart out. So it's like, I love it, but I never want to watch it.
Yeah, right. Or you just watch it from the certain, skip the intro, don't watch the ending.
Just watch the clips that are funny.
Yeah.
Of like Doug the Dog and keep it at that. Right?
Yeah, that one is kind of an underrated movie.
It is, yeah.
But
yeah, so anything from Pixar, and of course, I'm a huge Marvel fan. I have some very controversial opinions on Marvel because I actually love everything that they've been doing since Endgame. I loved She-Hulk. I loved Agatha
Okay.
all along. Like, I've loved all of these things. Probably Agatha more than the others because of the spooky factor. Even though I love horror films, like, I really love spooky films. So, your Addams Family of the
Yep.
Worlds, the Agatha Harkness that they just did, all of those Hocus Pocus, even Hocus Pocus 2, which was so cheesy. And
But it was good. It was
I
a fun
loved it.
I know,
It was so
yeah.
fun, right?
Yeah,
I have
Hocus
no
Pocus
defen-
2 got so much crap online, and
did.
it was like, it's a fun ride.
Well, I just said I have no defense for it being kind of a bad film. I get it, right?
Mhm.
But God, did I love it.
Yeah, right? There's just something about
I can't apologize for that.
it. Yeah, I don't know, or if it was just the nostalgic of...
It probably was. And that's, I'm a 45-year-old guy. I was born in 79, so I'm kind of in that millennial Gen Z transition area, and everything that's coming out is directed at me,
Yeah.
right? Like, all this nostalgia bait, it's right at me.
Yeah.
And
They
so
know, because they know that once you get older, you get a real
Yep.
job, you get some money.
Yep, and I'm going to be spending it. And boy, has it worked. I have my rose-colored nostalgia glasses on, and I look at everything, and it's all fantastic. And they know it, and it's working. And I'm okay with that. For now, I'm okay with it.
Right. They're smart. They know.
They know.
The
Yep.
machine.
This is the machine.
That mouse keeps printing more money.
Yeah, it's like I got to go again.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going in April.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate that I've been able to go as often as I have. Most of the time, it's linked to something else. So I have a dear friend who lives down there. So I visit her at least once a year. And as long as I'm driving by, I land in Orlando. She lives over in Lakeland. I got to drive by Disney anyway. I might as well stop, right?
Yeah, it's hard not to when you're
It's hard
that
not to,
close.
yeah.
If you're already halfway across the
Yeah.
country.
And there's a bunch of work conferences that keep happening in Florida for some reason.
Well, let's keep it
So I
going.
might as well just stop by. Why
Yeah.
not, right?
Either it seems like conventions are either Vegas or like
Vegas or
Florida.
Orlando, yeah.
You get you can do Blue Man Group in Vegas or go to Disney in Orlando.
Right. Well, they used to have Blue Man Group over there at Universal. and they
Well,
got
and
rid of
actually,
that.
yeah. So, good point. They are opening like May 2nd or something.
They coming back?
Or April 2nd, May 2nd, something like that.
Oh,
Blue Man
fantastic.
at Icon Park. So it
Oh,
won't be
they're an
at-
Icon. Okay.
Yeah, it won't be at Universal anymore, but at Icon Park.
Oh,
So
that's
when
good.
you're there in April, you might actually be able to check out Blue Man
So
Group.
yeah, we're gonna try and hit up Icon Park while we're there. So I may have to try and do
Okay.
that because I've never
We
done
s-
the wheel, the big.
Oh yeah, yep,
eye,
that's there. Yeah.
the
Ferris
Orlando
wheel.
Eye. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna try and do that. And then I've never done one of those cheesy helicopter tours. I've always wanted
Oh, you're
to try
going
that.
to?
I'm gonna try it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sure.
So who knows? Maybe I'll die on one of those
You
things. Who knows?
might be terrified.
I could
Be
be.
a little scared.
Well,
Well, if you don't see Blue Man Group, at least take a selfie in front of the theater for me.
if it's not open, I will for you.
Yeah. Or there's a gift shop. You could probably browse some cool.
There's always a gift shop.
Yeah,
Always
for-
exit through the gift
Yep,
shop.
that's Walt Disney would be
It's-
proud.
He would be.
So if you could live inside any Disney story or theme attraction ride, what would
Right.
it be?
Well, I think it's silly to say Haunted Mansion because we've mentioned that so often.
Mhm.
That is the answer, of course.
That you'd live inside.
So I'll give you a second one. It's probably got to be Living with the Land.
Oh wow.
Kind of a dark horse over there.
Sure.
I love that ride so much. It is
Okay.
underappreciated. It's boring. I'll give you that. A lot of
Mhm.
people say it's boring, but I find it so cool. All the stuff that they do with the science of growing food in there is amazing.
Wow.
In fact, for people that have never been to Disney, the land never gets talked about really, because there's not a lot of technology that's in your face about it.
Mhm.
It's a place where they grow tomatoes and grow lettuce, and they distribute it through Epcot in the Epcot area.
Mhm.
And I think it would be so cool to live in there. There's a little house in there at the beginning of the ride, and the the joke is that's where the secret laboratory is or something. And of course, when you actually look at the map of what's behind the house, it's actually the right exit.
Oh, funny.
So there's nothing behind it. But
Yeah.
the joke is, I want to live in that house because there's a dog out front. There's a chicken that's constantly crowing, which we'd probably have to shut that off. But I think it'd be so cool to live in that ride
Okay.
because there's a restaurant just above there. If you're not familiar with the layout,
I've not been to Epcot. Actually.
Oh, never been in
yeah,
there.
So
Oh,
only
wow.
Hollywood Studios and then Animal Kingdom.
Wow.
Magic Kingdom.
yeah. So the land is where Soarin' is, which is one of my favorite rides.
Sure.
It's where Living with the Land is. It's right next door to it. And then at the top, there's a place called the Garden Grill. And it's a restaurant that rotates ever so slowly.
Cool. Okay.
And part of your rotation is you look over Living with the Land, the ride, and you pass by this house. And there's a dog barking and there's a chicken crowing. And it's super annoying when you go by it, but it's just kind of got
Part
this
of
lore
yeah.
as you go by of, well, who lives there? What's going on in there? Why does it exist? And
Okay.
So yeah, I love that little area of the land.
Yeah, definitely Epcot is on my list to check out. Even the Frozen After.
Oh, Frozen Ever After.
Yeah, yeah. I always get so tongue twisted on the podcast.
Yeah.
But I also do that in real life too.
Right.
So.
Well, and Epcot's my wife's favorite park. So anytime we're there, we have to go to Epcot.
Sure.
She loves it.
Well, actually, probably next one on my list would be Animal Kingdom. And I
Right.
definitely want to do the Avatar ride.
That is really
But
cool as well.
The river one.
Oh, the river one.
Yeah, not the 4D.
Really?
flying.
You don't? You
Well, I do want to
to
do that one too.
Right.
But I want to see that. What is her name? Naomi.
Oh,
the
yeah.
animatronic.
It's one of their most advanced animatronics, and I tried going on it twice, and it was down both times.
So you got the video screen?
I got the stupid video screen.
No, that would be my fear. That's why I haven't done it.
Because there was one time I waited in line because I didn't have any fast passes or anything for it, and I was in line for, I think it was like an hour and 10 minutes, and the stupid video was there, and I was so pissed.
Yeah, literally. Unfortunate.
It sucked. But, whatever.
And especially when you say both times, too.
Yeah, twice. I tried it on 2 different
odds?
days, and they were down.
So we're going to kind of sneak Disney in with a little bit of horror, and
Yeah.
then we'll talk a little bit about Twisted again. But if you can turn any Disney IP, whether it's a movie, a character, or a theme park attraction, into a horror experience, what would it be?
I think it'd be Sleepy Hollow.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be cool to take your Tron ride, and instead of a light cycle, you're on a horse being chased by the horsemen?
Oh, I love that.
Right? And you're go into a dark building. The projections that you could do would be awesome.
Yeah.
I would love to see Sleepy Hollow as an attraction.
I think you need to give Bob Iger a phone call.
Right? He's not taking my call, sadly, but I'll give it a whirl.
Is he still the interim?
Allegedly, yeah. I mean, no, he is still officially the CEO, but they're looking for their next one.
Sure, yeah. Okay, I didn't know if his term of that.
Yeah,
was
not yet.
expired.
It hasn't expired yet.
Yeah, what an interesting time for Disney.
Oh, it's so bizarre, yeah. Because they've been for a while slowly falling into all the corporate traps of being a typical corporate culture.
Mhm.
But and that sucks because what made Disney so cool is that they basically let creative people run the company. It's one of the things that's made them successful. And the moment they bring a money person in or someone who's more
corporate
or structured and orderly, that's when things start to fall apart because they don't understand, like, that's not what people want.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that we're kind of seeing it now. It's getting more expensive. Creative things are kind of falling behind, and yeah, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, Universal's stepping up on their game.
Oh, they are
sure.
really showing some strong.
Friggin' Epic.
Epic Universe. I'm kind of kicking myself for not wanting to move my trip from April into May to try and go, but I know it's just going to be pure madhouse.
Yeah, and I think it's probably already long sold out.
Oh, long sold out, yeah, quite a while ago. So I'm thinking next year I may try and get over to Epic.
And that makes sense, too, to let it kind of die down and not be so...
it may not even die down after a
Yeah,
year.
that's true. Because everybody's going to go from Disney to Epic now.
Right. Yep.
So now, actually, we should be going to Disney.
It's the time to go.
Yeah.
Hopefully the crowds will go down and they'll lower their prices as competition, right?
Yeah, that could be.
Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what happens.
Have they ever lowered their prices?
No.
Yeah.
Best you could do is maybe get a coupon or something.
Yeah, well, I did hear, like, during COVID, they had a thing, something really, and it might have only been for Florida residents, but you could buy a 10-day pass.
Yep.
Each day was $100, so $99 a day, and you didn't have to use them in sequence or any combo. So you could literally go to the park once every year for 10 years and spend $100 on, that was crazy. I didn't take advantage of it. I didn't know about it, but.
Yeah, we didn't take advantage of it either, sadly, but that was probably the time to go.
Yeah, that would have, right.
Because the only other time to really go and not have crowds is like right after a hurricane.
Sure.
Because no planes have come in and no tourists are there.
Yeah, fair.
So it's the best time to get there. We happened to be there at a time when a hurricane came into Tampa, but it never really hit Central Florida, but a lot of flights got canceled anyway. And so we went to the park and it was just like half empty. It was really weird to see.
Yeah, I suppose.
After, 3 days of just constant battling crowds. And now it's just wide open, and you're looking around going, I'm the only one here now. Awesome.
Yeah, luckily the last time we were there was a national dance competition that weekend.
Oh, my gosh.
So it was, and for January, though, it was still actually really slow. Like, the longest wait we had Fast Pass for Haunted Mansion, but the longest wait we saw was like 45 minutes.
Okay, it's not so bad then. Yeah,
but still long enough to be, I feel like we probably waited a half hour or so. So my second favorite ride easily after Haunted Mansion is Tower of Terror.
Oh, yeah.
I freaking just love that and the story. And that's where the Take the Stairs, for you people listening or watching, that's where that whole thing is in that ride. They've got a cool little Easter egg of Take the Stairs.
Yeah, and I could never do that ride.
Yeah, you don't like
just
the drop?
look at the drop.
Yeah.
It looks.
Oh, it's
I don't
so
think I could do it.
good. Well, then what about Pirates? Is that a soft enough drop?
It is, but I still hate it.
Oh, really?
I tense up real bad during that drop, and it's not that big of a drop. It's whatever 50 feet maybe. Like it's real short,
right?
And quick, and not that severe of a drop.
When I guess
either.
it's bigger in California, the drop, because they're taking you under the street.
There's 2 of them in California.
And there's only one drop in Orlando?
There's only one in Orlando, and there's 2 in California.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
in California, you're getting under the railroad
Yep.
to get across to the show building where it's actually at.
Yeah. I love that illusion, too. That
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And they use it as a transition point, right? You're going now from dead pirates to the theory is like you're traveling into the past to see what happened to the pirates.
Oh, sure.
And so it's kind of a fun little way of doing that storytelling. But of course, now with Captain Jack and all the Pirates of the Caribbean tie-ins, now it's more that focused than it was, the original storyline.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy that they made the ride right after the movie.
Right. How convenient.
Yeah, I know. It's insane. For those listening, that was sarcasm.
Yes.
The ride came out first. But I want to talk more about Twisted a little bit.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, Twisted Nightmare is also, it's only about like 8 minutes away from here.
Yeah,
from
it's real
us,
close,
in Sioux Falls. And you're open in October like us.
Yep.
But I want to know, so being in the haunted house and working in it comes with wild stories.
Yeah.
So I want to know if you have one that's particularly memorable, funny, or unexpected that you've experienced at Twisted Nightmare.
Yeah, certainly plenty over the many years I've done it. So we are a little bit different of a haunted house because we do guided tours. And most haunted houses don't do that. But we take you through individually. And so I part of the fun of that is you get to experience the entire haunt with that group. And so you get to see how things work and what's working, what's not working. And there was one particular night, there was a girl and her boyfriend coming through, and she was terrified, screaming, clinging onto him as tightly as possible. And this was in 2020 when we were downtown.
Okay.
And so we were a lot shorter then as well, because right now we take up 2 buildings. When we were downtown, we just had the one little space in 9th and Railroad there, or excuse me, 8th and Railroad. And
which you utilize that space so well.
Crammed in, because we were using the back rooms. Our compressor was off in a back stairwell.
Oh, that's right. I remember
we had to run lines all the way across like hallways in the back hallways so that we wouldn't interrupt the other businesses and not block the fire exit. It was a crazy time how we had to get that working. But anyway, so we brought her, the elevator was in the back of the haunt so that it wouldn't make as much noise to the people in the front, because it is a pretty loud mechanism that runs. And so just as we got up there, I can't remember if she said she was being lightheaded or said something about this is too scary, but we got onto the elevator and I hit the button and it closed and she dropped and fainted.
Wow.
And there is nothing scarier than having someone just drop as if they just died.
Yeah, literally.
And thankfully, her boyfriend's like, no, she does this sometimes. And I'm like, oh.
Okay.
That would have been good to know
at
the beginning. We have all the, like you do, like all these signs, warning, this is scary. You're going to be doing something. Here are the rules, right? Don't come in here if you're pregnant. Don't come in here if you're this or if you have bad backs or whatever. And clearly, she probably should have not come through the haunt. And
we had the same story in like our first year, 2019. We had somebody pass out or faint, only to find out after the fact that this has been happening regularly.
Right.
She sometimes gets seizures. She's been seeing a doctor about it.
Right.
And I'm like, what the hell are you coming here for?
Right. What are you doing to us? Oh, my God. So it was the scariest. And then luckily, she thanked us profusely at the end and said she had a really good time.
Fair.
I'm not sure I believe her, but it was very nice. They were very nice and polite about it. And so, yeah, that's been the weirdest one that I've had. But I think the best groups that I have, and we'll see if you agree with this, are middle-aged to slightly older, slightly inebriated women. They're like on a night out in town. They don't have their husbands along, and for whatever reason, they giggle, scream the entire way, and are just there having a good time. They are the best groups to take through a haunt.
That's so funny. I would agree with that totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They're fun to dick around with in the line.
Oh, completely.
And, they're there to have a good time.
They're there to have a good time. They're not there to be jerks about anything, because you get your teenagers who are there to like prove something for some reason.
Right.
And they're just the worst. Or you get your people who are a little too drunk, and then they're just belligerent.
Yeah.
But yeah, for whatever reason, a group of middle-aged women are just the funniest in a haunted house, and that's probably the best group that I love taking through.
Sure.
We don't get many of them, but when they come,
Yeah.
like, they're the best.
Do you guys still? I thought you tried it one year recently that you didn't do a guided walkthrough.
Yeah, so we, like we struggle with getting volunteers, enough people, and as we've grown the number of people that we need to run the haunt, just basic stuff. And so there was one night where we're like, you know what, I think we're just going to have to let people go alone and see how it goes, because we didn't have enough tour guides. Because we need about 5 or 6 people at minimum to cycle through,
Sure.
and it's exhausting doing it.
Yeah,
I put 10,000 steps on a night just doing that, and a lot of them are walking backwards because you're facing the group trying to lead them through.
Sure.
And then you're riding the elevator over and over and over again, which is, you get used to the pattern, but
yeah,
it's hard on your body doing that over and over and over again.
Right.
And even like when we did the seance room, spinning around 30 times a night, it gets to you after a while.
Yeah, well, and I don't know if people totally understand, for the actors too that are screaming nonstop, you lose your voice. As narrating throughout, you're talking the entire time.
Yeah, we would lose our voice. So we tried doing it without for a night. I think we maybe did it 1 or 2 nights, and it's a different vibe. It's a different experience. It just didn't work out. So we went back to tour guiding. This last year we did tour guides in the first building, and then in the second building we would hand you off to a host that would get you on the elevator, and then you did the rest by yourself.
Okay.
And that seemed to work out okay, because it gave kind of a relief to the hosts and the tour guides to have a little bit of a breather in between.
Sure.
And not have to go on everything every single time.
Right.
And that seemed to work out a little bit better, so we'll see if that's what we do this year too.
Fair.
Yeah.
What's your creative process like for coming up or designing or coming up with ideas for the haunt?
Yeah, so it's kind of collaborative. There's probably a core group of 5 or 6 people that kind of work on it throughout the year. Like David and Garrett have been out there. I think Jeff's been out there already working on it, cleaning up from last year, because what we have in storage is just crammed in.
Sure.
Every nook and cranny is filled.
At the last second too.
At the last second.
When do you have to be tore down and done by?
We have about 3 days to get out of there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, typically we'll get at least 1 weekend, and if we're lucky, depending on when Halloween falls, we might get a second weekend to build it. So we have to be built in 7 days. And then we have about 2 or 3 days to tear down, because typically there's either an event or a wedding coming in after we're done.
Yeah, right. November and December.
Yeah,
it's busy.
It's very busy for them. And of course, even though we donate all, not all, but a very good portion of what we make to the FOP, like that's our purpose. That's our entire reason for existing there. They still want to be able to use it for events.
Right. So that was kind of the reason for you guys getting the second building, right?
Exactly, yeah. So someone donated a bunch of money to build a giant storage facility for them. They have a vintage cop car that they keep in storage. Well, now it's in that building. But the way they built it is, it's a garage inside this big garage, and the door is inside instead of going to the outside. And I think they did it for security. But in order to be able to get that car in and out, we have to leave a path open through the entire second building haunt. So when we put all of our stuff away into that building, we have to put it in a way that it can be off to the sides, stacked up, like it's stacked to the ceiling. And anything that we do put in that aisle has to be on rollers so it can easily roll out of the way.
Yeah.
So if they have to get that car right in and out.
That's crazy.
But at least we have, because of that, the result is we have a little bit of workspace. So we can get a few things done through the summer.
Okay.
And so back to that creative process, like David will start looking at what we want to do probably around, I don't know, August or so, maybe July, of like, what should the layout look like this year? What are we going to work with? So like this year, I think we're going to try and rework the entire, we call it the merry-go-round. It's the old seance room. And try and figure out its identity. It's had a bit of an identity crisis, as we said.
Yeah.
So it needs some rework. And so I think that'll be decided on probably this summer. And then once we have a layout down, we just use it on grid paper, because the way we have to be modular, since we're in and out, we have to be able to put up and tear down very quickly, as I said. So all of our walls are just prefabbed 4x8, 2x3s, screwed together and covered in plastic, and we can take them up and down very easily. And so when you can draw it out on a grid layout, and it's just a square blocks, and we figure out where we're going to go. We start off with the rules room, and then decide, okay, what's our next room going to be, and then just make it flow to wherever it's going to end at the back door. So the only parameters we have are that front door and the back door.
Mm-hmm.
And then we try and have at least 2 escape pathways on each side for emergencies.
Yeah.
And then we try and do that in the other building as well. And so, yeah, David kind of will come up with it, and then we just throw ideas back and forth. And if somebody, like if we have a volunteer that comes in and they're really passionate about a room, we let them build it. So that's one of the things is we let a lot of the volunteers build the stuff if they want. So we had a laser room for a while, and some of the folks that worked in there were very passionate about improving it, and so they turned it into an entire swamp. And so they went out and they got vines, and we got, a lot of chicken wire to be able to hang it all from, and they did all the work to get that sorted out and working. So now we have this really cool swamp room that we can build very quickly in the haunt.
What percentage is able to stay up? Do you tear down the whole thing? Are you able to keep up some parts of it?
No, right now, so for those who have been through it, the only parts that stay up in that second building is the long tunnel that's like the sewer tunnel, the elevator, the church, and the merry-go-round. Those are the only 4 things that stay up year-round.
Oh, wow.
Everything else has to come down to
in 2 days.
In 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's tough. It's really hard because like we have some storage up above, so like the entire graveyard goes up there because it's all light materials and it can handle being lifted up that high. And then like all the walls just kind of get shoved into whatever corner they can. And then a lot of the props go in the church.
Okay, because they can stay there.
They can just stay there. So that church is just filled to the brim of all the random stuff
of
that we
everything
have.
else.
Of everything else, yeah. And the merry-go-round, I think, gets kind of the same treatment. And
sure.
For a while, the elevator hallway got filled, like you couldn't even get into it. It was just filled with props and things.
Okay.
And so now I think they're out there trying to kind of reorganize it.
Get a game plan.
Get a game plan going and kind of get ready for this coming season.
Yeah, so then what is the future of Twisted Nightmare and Chad? What do we have coming down the pipeline?
Well, for me personally, I'm actually going to be pulling away from Twisted Nightmare a bit.
Okay.
Because as a 45-year-old dude about to turn 46, I decided I'm going to go back to school.
Okay.
Because apparently I'm not a smart person and I need to go back to school. So I don't know. A long time ago, I went to college, got a degree, and then there was a kind of a second part of that degree I never bothered finishing. And I've been chatting with my wife, and I'm like, I've always wanted to finish that degree. And she goes, well, why don't you go look into it? And I went and looked into it, and sure enough, I can take it all online now. The technology has really come far since many years ago when I was in school. And so, yeah, I've signed up for the University of Minnesota, so that's going to take away my ability to work with the haunt. So I'm still going to help out where I can. I just don't know in what capacity because I have no idea what my homework load is going to be.
Right.
I'm going to at least
so
take
what
a couple
is
of
that
classes.
degree? Can we ask?
Yeah, it's a bachelor's in technology management.
Sure.
I did the first part here at Southeast Tech, so I'll get into some of the technical stuff for a moment. For those who remember Novell, way back in the day. When I went through the program, the guy who ran it was really into Novell, and he hated Microsoft. So, like, all the classes were Novell related, and it drove me crazy because I'm like, Novell's on its way out.
Yeah.
And Novell, I don't even think they're a company anymore. I had not heard Novell in ages. So I ended up just dropping that part of the degree because I'm like, I'm not going to use this. This is pointless. And so ended up getting a job, and now I have a very lovely career, and I'm like, boy, it'd be nice just to have that extra bachelor's in there on my resume. I've always wanted to just complete that.
Oh, okay.
And online classes are actually very reasonably priced now, and I'm in a position where I can pay for it without taking out a bunch of loans.
Sure.
And my current employer will pay for part of it. I got tuition reimbursement and things like that.
Okay.
So everything just kind of added up to like, guy, I really should just do this.
Fair.
But it does mean I won't be able to do the haunt as much.
So is that going to be how many years left for that?
Oh gosh, I'll be doing it part-time, so at least probably 4 years, I'm sure. Like I'll be 50 probably before I get this degree, which is why I keep questioning like
But if you went into it full-time hardcore?
Oh, if I went into it full-time hardcore, it'd probably be a 2 or 3 year degree.
Yeah, got it.
Because I've got a lot of partial credits that are transferring, and they're still sorting out. Like, I still don't know what my final credit requirement's going to be yet.
Okay.
Because it's a fall class, so it doesn't start till August.
So you might not be that involved with Twisted for 4 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
That is crazy.
Yeah, because I would just be and so I do a lot of other volunteer work too. I also volunteer with the Stampede,
Okay.
the hockey team. I
Yeah.
do off-ice officiating for them. I'm not going to be able to probably do that either. So I gave them a warning a few weeks back on, just so you know, next season I may not be around as much anymore.
So is your goal to still try to be?
Yeah, I still want to be involved at least a little bit. So like I want to work at
for
least
both. So yeah, for hockey and
for hockey
yeah.
and the Halloween. So I still want to work some games when I can because I just don't know what my homework load's going to be.
Right.
Taking just a couple classes shouldn't be that much, but I don't know. They say, expect 4 to 9 hours, of homework per week or something like that. So I don't know. And since it's been, 25, 30 years since I've been in school, I have no idea what to expect on a modern, college experience.
What a wild time.
I know. And I'm very excited about it.
Congrats, though. That is exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited to do it. I'm really proud that I'm going to go for it
and finish it
and finish it off.
Started.
Finish what I started. But yeah, we'll see if it pays off in the end. And if it
fair,
who knows? Maybe it won't. Maybe it will. Maybe after a year, I'll go. You know what? This wasn't for me, and just end it.
That's true. Or just the accomplishment of finishing it.
Of finishing it, right? Because when I turn 50, will I have a degree or not, or another degree? I should say, a second degree.
Yeah.
I would love to say that I do. So I might as well start
cool.
now.
Then you
right?
could start working on your master's or doctorate. Start going for all of them.
It's on the table, but I don't know if I will.
Yeah, sure.
We'll see.
Because then you got what? Use another probably 6 years on top
Another probably
of that.
6 years of that. Yeah.
So
do
do you want to be in school for another 10 years? That's the
right.
question.
That's the question. Do I want to retire with my degree?
That'd be cool. I could call you doctor.
A doctor, right? Yeah. We have a doctor working in the hunt industry now.
A real doctor or an actor doctor?
Probably an actor doctor is
okay,
best I could probably do.
Sure, yeah, because we've got a surgeon, but I don't know if we might have a real nurse. That's like a real nurse.
Yeah, we've had a couple nurses in our haunt.
Doctors are too busy. They couldn't work at the haunt.
I know we have a lot of police officers. Being with the FOP.
Yeah, that's cool.
Twisted has a lot of police officers that work.
Yeah, it's so funny that you probably get all these punk kids coming through and they're being dicks to these actors, and they don't realize that it's actually a police officer that could be in that costume.
Oh yeah, and oftentimes it's a police officer guiding them through.
That's so funny.
Oh yeah, you get the guys who smell like pot so badly, and you're like, oh my gosh, what are on? This is called probable cause. Do you not know that? There's a giant sign out front that says Fraternal Order of Police.
So has anyone ever got arrested?
No, thankfully.
Okay.
We've had a few incidents over the years, but since we have a relationship with the police department, we get some of the reserves in that like manage our parking lot out there. So our parking, it's small for the crowd that we get in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the complexities of running a haunt that has become popular. It has grown so much because you go from a garage to all of a sudden having 400 people show up in a single night, in a single couple hours. What do you do with all those cars that are showing up? And so we've got the police reserves who have helped out. And we had a bus show up one night, and they were a party bus of drunks. And they got out and basically littered beer everywhere. We had Bud Light cans all over the place. And luckily our police reserves were able to kind of take care of that situation and send them on their way. This isn't the place for you.
Yeah, fair.
Maybe you should go somewhere else tonight.
So what are that was another question I forgot, some of the challenges.
Yeah, the challenges are we're almost too popular some nights.
Sure.
We probably need to switch to like a reserve ticketing system where you go by hour, kind of like what you do.
Mm-hmm. Or raise your prices.
We tried raising the prices a few times, and we're like, God, people are still paying it.
Yeah, they still keep paying it. Yeah.
That's what's people complain about Disney's prices going up, but people are still paying it.
Yeah, right. That's the thing.
And that's what's so bizarre about ours. We offer a discount if you bring canned food items, though this past year we got rid of that. And instead, we just donated $2 of every ticket to Feeding South Dakota.
Okay.
So we were able to donate $6,300 something bucks. Like it was a pretty sizable amount.
Did you have people that were pissed off that thought they could use the
I don't
cans?
I don't think so. We still had a lot of people donate cans, but I think we had gotten the word out there enough that because we didn't get as many donations of canned foods that year. Like we didn't even fill. Like we would fill probably
bucket
seven or eight of those big barrels, the 55-gallon barrels that they have around. We would fill like 6 or 7 of those.
That's so cool.
But now I think last year we didn't even fill one.
Wow.
So I think the word got out
and
that
they know what
we're not.
To do. Sure.
People knew, yeah. That's one challenge. Is like, what do you do with that many people? And the parking lot's not that big. We have a little like, annex parking area, but like that's only so good for so long. And then of course the challenge is the next morning you walk the parking lot and see how much trash everyone left, and it's
clean it all up.
Incredible the amount of litter that people leave in a
no
parking
doubt.
lot. So that's that. And of course, your normal jerks that come in, people who want to just mess around with the actors. They're not there. I don't know what they're there for. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, literally. Why are you paying money to come do this?
Like the teenagers who sit there will kind of cross their arms or square up against you. You're like, you understand this is a performance, right? This is like, you're meant to have fun.
Yeah.
And they're like, they're just clearly not having fun.
Yeah.
And they're almost mad to be there.
And like they're trying to challenge you, or it's just
right.
quite odd.
Right. And so, those are, and those like, eventually you just kind of get them through the haunt and send them on their way. And then it's just more of a mystery of why did you come here? But that's always offset with the really great people who are there.
Yeah, I would assume for you, like it is for us, that there's more awesome, great people than there are the troublemakers.
Yeah, way more great people that come through, and they're there to have fun. They're giggling, they're screaming, they're enjoying themselves. And those are the folks that we love having come through, of course.
So what is we know the future of Chad. What's then the future of Twisted?
Twisted, it continues on in its current location. So I haven't had a chance to chat with David about like what's the plan for this year. I just know that the merry-go-round's going to get a rehaul.
Okay, so keep an eye out for that, you guys.
Keep an eye out for that, and then we'll see what else does, because we have, when you've been around, this is our 11th year now. Some stuff is getting old and tired. We got to switch it up. We got to change things up. And so now it's, all right, what do we do next?
What do we change?
Yeah, what do we change? And we've done different things in different years. We did a haunted Sioux Falls theme where every room was themed to something in Sioux Falls.
Okay.
We've done, no themes at all. Last year we did kind of a theme with Hugs the Clown is trying to take over the haunt. It was trying to take over the haunt from Hugs the Clown.
Okay.
And so we had those two characters kind of fighting back and forth throughout the haunt.
Nice.
And tried to incorporate that. And we'll see where this year goes.
Fair.
So we try and, change it up where we can.
And
we also try and change up the scares, especially with like the elevator, because once people know it's there, then they're expecting it. And we don't want you to expect it. So we've changed the scare in there multiple times through the years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Sometimes it comes from above. Sometimes it comes from the side. Sometimes it just appears in the elevator with you.
Nice. So, that's so cool.
Yeah,
that was, I've been to other elevators that didn't have the scare from the top.
Oh, right.
And, or it wasn't working, or it just, they didn't use it. And the first time I was in your guys' elevator, that scared the shit out of me, just because I'd been in elevators before that didn't do that for haunted houses. And then your guys' did. It was cool when you don't expect something.
Well, that's another example. We were talking about effects and things like that, and how simple you can make something and make it work. And make it reliable. That's the most important part, is making it reliable. When you have stuff that doesn't work, it's real annoying for you and for the guests and everybody else. So what we did with that effect is the elevator would go all the way down as far as it would go. We would open the roof up, and then there's a clown doll up in the ceiling. And we just tied it to a simple string that connected to the elevator. And we would then lift the elevator as far as it would go, about the foot or so, and the string would just drop with the elevator. So it was just on a pulley system.
Oh, wow.
Because prior to that, we were trying to use like garage door openers and other mechanical things, and like quick release motors, and we were trying all these different things, and it finally just came down to just a simple pulley.
Sure.
Because then there's no mechanics involved that can break.
Yeah.
Because the doors wouldn't activate, or the motor wouldn't activate, or something wouldn't trigger right, so it kept breaking down. But if just a piece of string, it works so effectively. And that's how it ended up working really well for a couple of years, is just lift the elevator up, the pulley moves, and the clown drops into the elevator with you.
That's so cool.
And it was super effective. It was one of my favorite scares we had.
Sure.
In the haunt.
So definitely we'll keep an eye out for Twisted Nightmare this October. I'd assume, the Thursday, Friday, Saturdays?
Yeah, we're doing Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. There's still discussion if we're going to go into November again. We went into November last year because of the day that Halloween fell on.
Right.
Was it a Friday or something like
Thursday.
that? Or Thursday, yeah. So we wanted to stay
Friday, Saturday.
So we were open for 12 days for the first time in our history.
Oh, wow.
Normally we only do 10 days, right?
Sure.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday through everything, and then Halloween night. And this past year we did a couple extras. We'll see if we do the same thing this year.
Okay. And the shameless plug, where can fans find you on Instagram, it's like Twisted Nightmare SF.
Yeah, Twisted Nightmare SF on Instagram, twistednightmare.org for the website. If you go to .com, I forget where it goes. I don't think it's another haunted house, but it's something else horror related.
Oh, funny. Okay.
Yeah. And then we're on Facebook, of course, as Twisted Nightmare Sioux Falls.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, man, for being on the podcast.
You're very welcome. Hopefully, we can get David in here. And
yeah, we'll do. We'll definitely do a part 2 with Crumb chatting with you as well.
Oh, absolutely! I'd love to come
can
on again.
Definitely geek out over some Disney and Universal, and
I would love to come on, especially after Monsters Universe opens. I'd love to see that.
Yeah,
chat
no
about
doubt.
that.
Yeah, the whole dark universe.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks.